long time now for the exchange. And joining me live now from Washington, D.C. is Asanga Abeyagoonasekera, a geopolitical analyst and the author of Conundrum of an Island, Sri Lanka's Geopolitical Challenges. Abeya, thank you so much. Asanga, thank you so much for being with us. So the protesters now have gotten what they wanted. The Prime Minister, who's only been in office this time around for a couple of months, and the President are both stepping down. What happens next?
Well, according to the Constitution, the Speaker becomes the acting President. And the Speaker has now announced that on the 19th, he would be calling the Parliament and will be appointing the new leader of the country. So the most number of seats now, according to the parliamentary seats, is to the opposition leader, and would have to form an interim government with all parties. So that's the way forward.
Okay, so you've lined out, sort of laid out what happens sort of politically, but even though the Prime Minister and the President have both agreed to step down, nothing changes here economically. What needs to happen to get Sri Lanka back on track from an economic perspective so that people aren't being forced to stretch out their food every day to make it last?
Well, it's a serious economic crisis. What triggered this protest, the second wave of protest, was I equal it to an Arab Spring because of the three attributes. The people were against an autocratic rule of the Rajapaksas, the rampant corruption, and the economic condition. Well, days standing in the queues, 16 deaths reported. You had a regime which is, which was appointed, took a lot of irrational decisions. A week ago, a casino boss was appointed as a cabinet member. So many irrational decisions. There was anger of the people. So the economic crisis is serious. There's an insolvency issue, and there is a liquidity crisis. There is no funds to pay. Sri Lanka requires about $600 million for fuel, for payments of fuel every month. There is no foreign reserves, so it's a serious crisis.
Right, so $600 million for fuel every month. So that's roughly around, give or take, $6 billion for the whole year. Just walk us through where that money comes from at this point in time. India has been very generous to Sri Lanka, but can they keep on giving?
India has given $3.5 billion. I think as the closest neighbor, India has stepped forward to assist Sri Lanka in this situation. It is an anarchic situation, and it has moved towards a complete anarchy. So we don't have a functioning government right now, where 3 cabinets were appointed in 2 months. So a lot of assistance are coming in from the United States, from other countries. But here is a situation without a functioning government or political stability. Donors are afraid to give funds also. There's an IMF discussion that's been going on. At least we need to reach a staff level agreement and a debt restructuring program by next month. So these are immediate requirements, or if they don't sort of stabilize the political situation, I see a huge humanitarian crisis coming in Sri Lanka.
You know, just explain to us, I mean, yes, we've talked about corruption, economic mismanagement. You talked about a casino boss being given like a top cabinet position, but just walk us through how we actually got here.
Well, I wrote The Coming Anarchy in last year, June, The Coming Anarchy in Sri Lanka, because the Rajapaksas' interference to judiciary, the human rights concern, the family rule, ruling the entire country, keeping all the top ministries. So what you see was a complete mismanagement. This was the first time that Sri Lanka had a sibling regime, the 2 brothers appointed, and there was heavy militarization. I warned back then that we are getting closer towards Myanmar. The 27 military appointments, the foreign secretary was military. We never had a regime like this, so it was very unfortunate. The critiques were targeted. So there are multiple concerns. There's not only one concern. Finally, the people showed their power. They walked into the president's house. They walked into the president's office. The military, I would say, we have about 70 to 80 injured, but, it was a revolution done by the people. And, from all walks of life, mothers, children, everybody was there. And so they were angry with the irrational decisions. Ago, the Prime Minister said that, take one day off and grow vegetables when they were hungry. So these are all irrational decisions. So I think the price is now being paid by the policymakers. That there's a huge trust deficit which they need to work on. So even the interim government right now would have to keep elections in a few months. So that's the only way forward.
But I'm just curious what happens to people in the interim. You talked about, the IMF, for example, and potential assistance from the IMF could be coming, but if so, that would be months away. What happens to ordinary Sri Lankans in the meantime, in the interim? We're talking about people who are lining up for hours and hours just to get food or medical supplies or gasoline, for example.
Well, there'll be a lot of, suffering because the Rajapaksa regime basically rejected the IMF proposals, which was given about a year ago. So now there'll be a lot of suffering. There'll be long queues. So, this would continue, I would say, for, the IMF, like you said, yes, it will take about 3 to 6 months, even the rapid financing and, getting all these things together. So, it's going to be very, one of the very saddest times as well as challenging times to the people of Sri Lanka, and they would have to go through it. But the political stability is a must because the country will, it is already in an anarchic situation, so it can move into that direction. Here is a country which had 2 youth insurrections in 1971 and 1989, and also the Easter Sunday bombing in 2019. There is a security concern also, which, India as well as the region should be concerned because Sri Lanka is a geostrategic hotspot in the Indian Ocean.
I've been to Sri Lanka only once, and the country is beautiful. It's got beautiful beaches, it's got sort of lush mountains. How does Sri Lanka sort of win back tourists to the country? Because that would be a key element of bringing in sort of hard sort of foreign currency into the country.
Definitely. So Sri Lanka would have to, work on bringing back the tourists back again, as well as, the remittances that they're dependent on. So the war in Ukraine, as well as the pandemic, affected the tourism, as well as multiple sectors. So here's a situation that you need political stability, re-democratization of the country, and bringing in the tourists in. So it's a country that can live the economy can function from the tourism income, as well as the other exports like tea exports and various others. So it would have to work on these programs and restart, rather than going. It is going to be a difficult task because Rajapaksas, what they did was they militarized, they intervened with the institutions, the independent institutions. The constitutional amendment he made to bring more power to himself, the executive president, has to be sort of revisited back again. So there are structural changes that is required. So the new leader would have to face all these challenges.
Right. Asanga Abeyagoonasekera, thank you so much for being with us.